Ever feel like you're supposed to be sharing your faith, but you're not really sure how?
Oh, absolutely.
Like maybe you don't have all the answers or even where to begin.
Right.
Well, today we are diving deep into where Minister Christine Dargan takes us in her sermon, How Will They Hear? Romans 10.
And it's such a relevant question, don't you think? I mean,
Yeah.
it's like that universal yearning we all have to connect to something bigger than ourselves,
Hmm.
and then to share that.
100%. Minister Christine really gets right to it when she says, being a believer isn't enough.
Hmm.
She really emphasizes that to truly live out our faith, we can't just keep it to ourselves, we have to share it.
Yeah, it's not passive, is it?
No.
It's about taking action. It's about recognizing that faith is an active way of living and engaging with the world around us.
Right. It's that walking the walk part of faith.
Exactly. It's where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah.
It's one thing to believe, but how do we actually live that out?
Right.
And I think Minister Christine is really challenging us to think about that action part of faith, the evangelism, the discipleship. It's about taking responsibility.
Absolutely. And picture this with me for a sec. You're standing in this incredible cathedral, right? Huge arches, light streaming through these amazing stained glass windows. You're surrounded by like centuries of history.
I can practically smell the incense. You can just feel all that weight of tradition.
Exactly. It's powerful stuff. Picture it. Soaring arches, stained glass, the whole 9 yards.
Mm-hmm.
The tour guide is going on and on about the tomb of the Duke of Wellington, this great military hero. And out of nowhere, the pastor asks, has anyone gotten saved here recently?
Wow. I bet you could hear a pin drop.
Right. Talk about cutting through centuries of tradition with just one question.
It's like you just flipped the script on them. How about you? Have you ever been in a situation where faith felt, I don't know, maybe a little out of place?
All the time. It's that contrast that really struck me. Admiring history versus engaging with living faith.
Right.
And it reminded me of those 3 parables Minister Christine brings up.
Yeah.
The 10 virgins, the talents, and the sheep and the goats.
Each one offers like a different perspective on this call to action, like the wise virgins, for example.
Right.
They teach us about preparedness.
Yeah.
And not just for ourselves, but for those unexpected opportunities to serve.
Being ready, having that, what do they call it, spiritual oil, to keep our lamps burning when those opportunities to share our faith come up.
Yes, exactly. And then you've got the parable of the talents, which highlights how important it is to actually use our God-given gifts. Don't bury them, right? Invest them in the service of others.
Yes. It's that action over passivity again. And this leads perfectly into that story about the man on the verge of suicide. Oh man, that story is just heartbreaking and hopeful all at the same time.
Isn't it, though? It really gets at how even these tiny acts of reaching out can make a huge difference. This guy's at the edge of a pier, ready to end it all.
I can't even imagine.
And then he spots someone drowning. And something changes inside him. Something clicks.
He chooses to act, to help. And in that, I don't know, his own pain kind of takes a back seat. And it literally pulls him back from the edge. Just wow.
It's amazing, right? That act of service, that sudden realization that he had the power to impact another person's life. And this circles right back to what we were saying about Minister Christine's message about sharing our faith.
It's not about standing on a street corner yelling at people, is it?
No, not at all. It's about recognizing these small moments, those chances we get to maybe be that lifeline for someone, where what we do speaks volumes louder than words ever could.
It's about meeting people where they are.
Exactly.
And she's not just talking about like jumping in after someone to save them from drowning, right? She's saying that just sharing our own experiences with faith, our own stories, can be just as powerful.
It's so true. Just think about a time when you heard someone sharing their own story about how their faith helped them through a rough time.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, didn't that hit you harder than just hearing the basic ideas?
Totally. It's that realness, that genuine openness that just pulls you in. It reminds you that faith isn't about having it all figured out or pretending to be perfect.
Right.
It's about connecting with people, heart to heart.
And that's exactly why sharing your story, your own testimony, can be so powerful.
100%. And to really illustrate this, Minister Christine tells this story about an investment banker named Tyrone. Just picture this high-flying Wall Street guy getting his dream job, only to find out that his main task is to shut down a church.
Whoa.
Right. What a curveball. And to make matters even more interesting, it turns out it's his grandmother's church she's supposed to close down.
Oh, wow.
I know, right? Talk about awkward.
That's quite the dilemma.
So naturally, he's totally against it at first. He's a numbers guy, not a preacher. But the church members, all 9 of them, they see something in him, like a possibility that he doesn't even really see in himself yet.
Interesting. They see his potential.
It's like they see him not as he is in that moment, but as he could be. And their belief in him, this faith they have that he can lead their little congregation, it's so strong that he can't help but be moved by it.
Wow. So he actually leaves his big Wall Street job.
He does. He takes that leap of faith and leaves all that money behind to answer a different calling.
That's incredible.
It really is a true testament to how God works in these mysterious ways. But the story doesn't end there. One Sunday, this, as Minister Christine puts it, old drunk, ends up at the service.
An old drunk, okay.
Yeah, she describes him as being a little worse for wear, let's just say. But Tyrone, remembering his own journey, he welcomes this guy in with open arms. It seems like a small act of kindness, right? But it sets off this incredible chain reaction.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What happens?
Well, this man, he has this really profound experience at the church.
Mm-hmm.
And get this, he gets sober and becomes this super devoted member. He even becomes the head deacon.
Wow, what a turnaround.
Right. But the real kicker is what happens next.
He starts sharing his faith with people he meets on the subway, right?
Exactly. Every single day on his commute.
That's amazing.
And he wasn't like preaching or anything, you know. He would just play recordings of Tyrone's sermons for anyone who'd listen.
Pastor's sermons.
Wait, hold on. He's just blasting sermons on the subway. No headphones.
Nope. Just letting it boom.
Wow, that takes guts.
Right. I mean, it's kind of hilarious to picture. But here's the thing. People started noticing. This guy's sitting there on the train, this pastor's voice booming out of his beat-up old boombox. It sparks something.
You know what? That's kind of genius. I mean, we live in this world that's just saturated with noise, right? Constant distractions. And here's this guy cutting through all of that with this raw, unfiltered expression of his faith.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it goes back to what we were saying about authenticity, right?
Yeah.
This guy, just by listening, by being so open about his faith in such a public way, he's putting it out there. It's like an invitation.
And the people on the subway, they saw something real in that, something different. Makes you wonder how many opportunities we miss, you know, to share our faith because we get so caught up in how we think it's supposed to look.
That's so true. And the sermon actually makes the point that these subway sermons, as strange as they were, they actually started a ripple effect.
Like people were actually showing up at church because of this guy.
Yep. Drawn in by how sincere he was, how real it all was.
That is such a cool example of how the how of sharing faith can be so unexpected. It doesn't have to be this polished presentation, you know, or some big theological debate.
Sometimes it's the most simple acts of faith that really hit home.
I love that. The church, it just starts to grow. Within a few years, it went from those 9 members to over 700.
Whoa. That's the power of one right there.
Isn't it amazing?
It really makes you think about, like, what kind of impact we could each have.
Exactly. It's not about having some huge platform or being a saint. Just taking those little steps of faith, sharing what's real for us, can snowball into something much bigger.
Absolutely. And Minister Christine reminds us it's often those raw, honest moments that really resonate with people. I mean, think about it. Who are you more likely to trust? Someone who seems like they have it all figured out.
Oh, no way.
Or someone who's willing to admit they don't have all the answers, you know?
Yeah, give me the real stuff.
Exactly. Real recognizes real. It makes it relatable.
Totally. It's like saying, hey, I'm on this journey too, and here's something I found that gives me hope, you know?
Yeah.
So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive into Minister Christine's message, what's the one thing you really hope sticks with our listeners?
I hope they walk away feeling empowered, you know, feeling like they can share their own faith stories no matter how small they might seem, because we all have something unique to offer.
That's so true. Our stories have the power to touch lives, to build community. It's a beautiful thing.
It is.
Don't wait for the perfect time, right? Share what's on your heart and trust that it will find its way.
Love it.
Because you just never know. It might set off a ripple effect that changes everything.
We hope you've enjoyed this podcast based on the Sunday, September 22nd sermon, which is the 3rd installment in the series, Who's Gonna Tell 'Em?, entitled, How Will They Hear?, based on Romans chapter 10, verses 14 through 15, preached by Minister Christine Dargan. We invite you to join in a live discussion about Sunday's sermon every Wednesday at 7 p.m. on our conference line, telephone number 605-313-4831, access code 869360. Come join us for live worship every Sunday at 10 a.m. Congregational Church of God, located at 1889 Amsterdam Avenue between West 153rd and 54th Streets in New York, New York. But if you can't come out, we live stream on YouTube on our channel, CCOG NYC, and on our Facebook page at Congregational Church of God NYC. God bless you, and look forward to meeting you online and in person.